Welcome to the Service Game, where serve starts the story. I'm your host, Ivy J. And in today's episode, I will be talking about the past week's tennis that took place in Doha / the Qatar Open on the women's side, as well as the ATP Rotterdam and ATP Dallas 500 events. So yeah, I guess I kind of want to start off by saying that I feel like there were a lot of great stories in tennis this week, especially on the women's side. I mean, we have the Canadian Mboko, which I will get into later. We also have Karolína Muchova, who haven't won a title in 6 years, winning her first title. So yeah, but let's get right into the toss. So for our first segment of today's show, I kind of want to just start off by saying that if you guys can't tell, the audio quality is so much better because I'm actually recording in like a production studio now, thanks to CKUT, which is the McGill radio show. And if you guys want to go check out, they have some pretty cool shows and musics. I have a link in my show notes if you guys want to go check it out. Yeah, and I feel like one of the main themes this week is how the women's tour just completely, I feel like, at least for me, was so much more interesting compared to the men's. And I think a part of it definitely have to do with just there were more seeds playing, like Iga Swiatek was playing, Coco Gauff was playing, a lot of the top names were playing, whereas on the men's side, players like Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, they decided, and even Novak Djokovic, who literally showed up at the Winter Olympics, but I think they decided to just take a break because obviously the Australian Open took a lot away from them, but it's pretty interesting just to see how I feel like over the past 2 weeks, a lot of the memorable stories came from the women's side. And not gonna lie to you guys, it's been really hard for me to be finding time to watch tennis, even though I feel like in Doha and in like Dallas and Rotterdam, the time zones works better for me, but it kind of also like overlaps with when I'm in classes. So it's been really hard to keep up with everything that's going on, as I said before. And I guess like if you are a tennis watcher, you'll know is that the tennis tour literally just goes on forever, and there's truly no time for like, I don't know, like a break. I mean, at least for me, I have to find times in my, like, I don't know, like when I'm not doing anything to watch the highlights, but it's really hard to keep up with tennis because there's just always so much going on. Sorry for that rant, but yeah, that's it for the toss. I mean, I kind of want to get more into the main segment of today's show, which is the hit. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the first segment of the hit, and let's talk about our fellow Canadian Victoria Mboko first. So really, I feel like this run for Mboko has been truly magical because let's just go over her run and you'll see what I mean. So I really think her match against Andreeva, which took place before her match against Rybakina, was like, I don't know, it kind of shows us the future of tennis. It went to a deciding set tiebreak with Mboko winning the tiebreak with a score of 7-5. And yeah, I guess, as I said, it just shows us the future of tennis because both players were striking the ball so well. And by winning this, Mboko also revenged for her Adelaide loss, which took place before the Australian Open. I mean, it was just completely insane defense from both. There really isn't that much of like, my words really can't do it justice, but I really think it was one of the best matches we've had in this season. I know it just got started, but still. Like both players were able to get to balls that were just like on the two sides of the court. And also Mboko's backhand is absolutely amazing, and so is Andreeva's, and their ability, I think, to change the game up. I remember there was this one point where both of them were slicing so much. It was just like majority of it was slices, and I just really like seeing how also there were like a lot of like net like volleys and smashes. I just like to see the variety in the game. And I think variety is super important nowadays, because even players like, I don't know, Sabalenka, who can just like beat you from the baseline, has the ability to use her, like, she has a really good drop shot. She also can have like a decent like net skills, sort of like volley skills, which I found really valuable. And a lot of these players, I think, try to play doubles to sort of like train themselves to be better singles player, which I think really manifested in this game. And then her match against Rybakina was a really good match too. She beat Rybakina, and I don't know, I think the rivalry between Rybakina and Mboko is really interesting because they played in Montreal last season, and I remember Mboko saving match points to beat Rybakina. I mean, Rybakina is playing, I feel like, one of her best like tennis ever, like her best tennis ever, because she just won Australia. And prior to playing against Mboko, she did play against Zheng Qingwen in the previous round, and I know Zheng Qingwen just got back from an injury, so it probably wasn't the best, but still, it was just some insane ball striking. Please go watch that match. Like, I feel like if you compare the speed of that, like the ball striking there, to the one from like, let's say, Mboko and Andreeva, you can really see how fast these players are just hitting the ball with pure force, and it's just such like a pleasure to watch. Yeah, it was just insane. And also Rybakina's point to save break point in like the first game was crazy. I mean, it just shows how well she is, like how oh my god, sorry, how well she is playing right now. I think it was like a white shot was pulled off court, and she just like swinged, and then the forehand, she just like smashed that forehand down the line. It was incredible. And I mean, Rybakina she saved 3 match points on her serve, but Mboko still managed to win. And yeah, I mean, this is just like a really interesting rivalry. And with that, even though Mboko lost the final, her ranking, she reached her new career high ranking of world number 10. And that's actually crazy, because I think the other sort of teenage player who was able to do this is Mira Andreeva, which I feel like is such like a good rivalry between the two, as I said before. But also, this is Mboko's second WTA 1000 finals. And I mean, even though she didn't win, it just shows how fast she's progressing, and I really want to see her to keep up this level in the clay season and in the grass court. I'm not sure how well her game is going to match up on clay, but I think her game is going to do pretty well on grass. I feel like we just haven't seen her play a lot of the other surfaces, just because the title she won in Montreal last year was also on hard court. So yeah. And I also want to mention Mboko's semifinal against Ostapenko. I think when they first started off, she was a little bit caught off guard by Ostapenko's just like ability to hit the ball, like hit the living daylight off the ball. Like, yeah, she lost the first 6 points. I felt like she was a little bit just caught off guard. But then after she found a footing, she was just smooth sailing. And yeah, it just really shows how even against a player like Ostapenko, I really appreciate and really admire Mboko's ability to stay calm, even when we know that the other side can hit some like incredible shots out of nowhere. So I really do think it also shows just how mature Mboko is. I kind of already mentioned her backhand, but yeah, I just really think Mboko is an incredible player, and I can't wait to see what more she does. Okay, now I want to talk about Karolína Muchova. I really have a soft spot for Karolína Muchova just because she's been through so much and I just really, really like her style of tennis. I mean, as a tennis player myself, I'm not really the one that can just be willing to go up the net, hit volleys, hit smashes, hit a lot of slices. I would describe my game more as just like trying to blast my opponent from the baseline. But Muchova is so much different than that. She really uses like all of tennis, if that makes any sense. Like, she uses her slice, she uses her forehand, her backhand, she has a really solid serve, she has really incredible volleys as well as a smash, and also her drop shots. Like, I think she has everything, and she has such like a magical way to mix them all up to sort of, I guess, define what her tennis is. And it's just, she's such like an entertaining player to watch. And I guess I kind of want to start off by saying how she beat Maria Sakkari. But first of all, I do want to say this was a little bit confusing because both of them were wearing the same exact fit. And I remember watching this with my friend and she was like, wait, who is who? Because she's never watched tennis before. So I really do think like the tennis tour has to make a point to put like two players in different outfit. I mean, I don't think that's the tour's problem. It's probably the brands. I know both of them were wearing Adidas clothing. But yeah, it was just a little bit confusing. But her match against Sakkari was pretty good. I mean, Sakkari came out, won the first set, and then the second set was also pretty high level, but Muchova managed to just come out a little bit on top by winning all the important points. And then the final set was pretty one-sided. Muchova won that pretty easily, I think, 6-1. But I kind of want to mention and give credit to Maria Sakkari as well, because Sakkari beat Paolini and Iga, and I know Paolini hasn't been in her best form, so I mean that wasn't like too unexpected because I mean I watched Sakkari at the United Cup and she was playing some pretty good tennis, but for her to beat Iga Świątek was really interesting because she lost 4 times in a row against Iga, and the last time they played was actually here last year in a round of 32, and it was just like a straight set win for Iga. So after Iga won the first set 6-2 this time in like, I don't know, like 36 minutes, I thought it was just going to be how it normally like is, because I don't know, like Iga has just this, I guess she's been dominating Sakkari for such a long time now. But Sakkari managed to like hold her ground, and I really do think her tennis is improving, but also I think her mental, like her ability to stay focused and just like not get really sad or really disappointed by, I don't know, like a first set loss like this is really admirable, because I really do think her mental state or her mental game improved so much. And I also want to applaud Iga because the last point she lost was a missed volley, which gave Sakkari the entire game. But I really like how Iga's trying new things, such as slicing and coming up to the net, because, I mean, I think one of the reasons why she partnered with her current coach, his name is Wim Fissette, is because she wants to be able to incorporate more elements into the game. As I said before, players like Mboko, Andreeva have like also like Muchova, they have a lot of different tennis skill sets, but I think for Iga, just because she plays so well at the baseline, sometimes she just relies on her like forehand and backhand. But I think once Wim Fistet's set started coming in, he's been encouraging her to do more of like the slices or the going up to the net. But I feel like Iga has been hesitant to do it, even though she knows that that's probably what's going to be better for her, if that makes any sense. But I really like that she's willing to take a loss and try new things, just because, as I said before, this is just like not a super important tournament. It's not like one of the Grand Slams, and I really think it's better for her to be making these mistakes and try new things now compared to when she has more points to defend at, let's say, like Roland Garros or Wimbledon. So yeah. Okay, now I want to talk about the final and what it means for both players. So, Mboko versus Muchova, coming in, I knew that it was going to be a really great final. And for Mboko, this is her second WTA 1000 final. And yeah, like she's only 19. It probably means a lot for her, but I really do think it meant so much more for Muchova in like a different way, because Muchova hasn't won a title in 6 years. Her last title one was an 1000 title. Well, sorry, this is her first 1000 title one. And her last title one was in 2019. And she been through like a wrist surgery, but I don't know, like her tour performances haven't really matched up to her Grand Slam performances. Like she's reached a semifinal of several semifinals of Grand Slams before, but not really like competed at the same tour level. And it's also really symbolic because both of these players are the only players this season to beat Rybakina, Mboko in this tournament, and Muchova in, I believe it was Adelaide. So both of these players were the only players to beat Rybakina, which shows that these players, I wouldn't say these players are better than Rybakina just because Rybakina did win Australia, but I do think these two players are playing some of their best tennis right now. And the first set was pretty even. It was 3-all, and then Muchova managed to break Mboko. And I think the main theme in the entire final was how strong Muchova's first serve was, because she only allowed Mboko to generate one break point. She has been managing to just, I don't know, like really capitalize when she's serving and take advantage of that. And the only break point Mboko generated, she also managed to convert. So I mean, it just really shows how Mboko was having such a hard time returning Muchova's serve, whereas when Mboko played against Rybakina, she was having a much easier time returning Rybakina's serve, which is really interesting because you will think that Rybakina has a really powerful serve that might be hard for Mboko, but I guess it's just like, it might be like a matchup problem, but it also just depends on what kind of serves the players are playing, because I'm pretty sure Muchova is mixing a lot of slices and topspin serves, whereas for Rybakina it might be more flatter, so that could play a part into it. Okay, let's take a break and then we'll go to our last part of the hit, which is talking about Félix Auger-Aliassime. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Canadians in this week's episode. Okay, everyone, now let's talk about Félix Auger-Aliassime, who is just like insane on indoor hard courts. I mean, throughout his career, he's only lost 4 matches on indoor hard courts, 2 of them by retirement. The other 2 he lost to Jannik Sinner, which is like, yeah. He has 9 titles in total. 8 of the 9 are from indoor hard courts. And I guess coming into ATP Rotterdam, because players like Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Alexander Zverev have already withdrawn from the tournament, I really expected him to come out here dominating, just because he also won a title in Montpellier the week before this. So that is pretty impressive, and I really do think he is just something on indoor hard courts. Like, I can't really think of a player, maybe except for Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, who are better than him on a hard court. Like, okay, indoor hard courts, like, okay, maybe Novak Djokovic when Djokovic is on. But, like, I do think he has the ability to challenge players even like Zverev. And I'm really looking forward to his match against Alex de Minaur today. I mean, by the time my episode comes out, you guys will know who won that final, but they're currently playing right now. And I really also want to give credit to de Minaur. I mean, ATP Rotterdam has been, not gonna lie, there isn't too many interesting matchups, but if you guys want to like watch some of the matches, I'd suggest you guys just to go watch any matches played by de Minaur or Félix Auger-Aliassime, just because you can really show how their level is so high compared to the rest of the field. I mean, for de Minaur, he plays more like a wall, and I think that's really what defines his tennis. Like, he's just a wall. No matter how hard you hit a ball at him, he's just going to hit the ball right back at you, and if you hit it faster to him, he's going to hit it faster to you. So that's really interesting. But I think for Felix, he's more willing to take more risks and, I don't know, just hit with more convincing power on an indoor hard court, and I think that definitely has to do with his confidence of winning so many matches. But the reason why I want to bring up de Minaur is because this is his third consecutive final at an ATP 500 event, and this stat was really interesting when I was doing some research. So he has won 52 500 events, 52 500 matches, like 500 level matches, and he's won more 500 event matches compared to Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Alexander Zverev. Like, he's the number one player who's won the number of 500 matches, if that makes any sense. Like, he's won more 500 matches than literally like Carlos, Jannik, and Alexander Zverev. So he's won 52, whereas Carlos has won 44, Sinner has won 43, and Zverev has also won 43. So this was pretty interesting. Like, I mean, okay, granted, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Alexander Zverev, they're not entering into as many 500s as Alex de Minaur, but still, I really found this interesting because it just shows how even a player like de Minaur, who's able to dominate at a tour level, when he's matched up against players like, I don't know, like Jannik Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz, they're able to beat him so easily in a way that is kind of startling almost, and it just shows the different levels between the fields. So yeah, and de Minaur in the semifinal, he saved 10 out of 10 break points. He played against, I think, Hugo Humbert, so that's pretty interesting. I mean, okay, saving 10 out of 10 is pretty impressive, but also to not convert any of the 10 break points is a really, I don't know, just like an interesting stat. So yeah, but they're playing their finals at 9:30, so if anything happens, I will be updating, but it's currently 9:41 and I'm recording the podcast now. So yeah, okay. And then I kind of want to talk about Dallas, not that much, because honestly, nothing really happened. Like, there wasn't any like really, really incredible matches. I mean, maybe apart from the one that was played between Ben Shelton and Denis Shapovalov. I will be leaving a link. That was a semifinal match that took place yesterday. Not gonna lie to you guys, I did not watch it, but I mean, I can leave a link. They're playing their final today at 2 p.m. So it's the first and the second seed, Taylor Fritz against Ben Shelton. I mean, yeah, Taylor Fritz is really interesting to me because he's suffering from a chronic knee problem, but he's still deciding to play in all of these tournaments, which, I mean, fair enough, because he knows that he's not going to win. Okay, not to sound really like pessimistic, but if Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Novak Djokovic are healthy, he's not going to win a Grand Slam. So, I mean, I feel like he knows that his best ability to climb up the ranking, his best way to climb up the ranking and gain more points is through playing these tournaments, but I really do think there's a fine line between, I don't know, like balancing your injuries compared to playing these tournaments where you know that even if you win, you're just going to earn 500 points, which may seem valuable in a short run, but if we really zoom out, I feel like it might damage his chances of winning a Grand Slam in the future, because Grand Slams require so much more like it requires so much more physically from you just because it's the best of 5. So I don't know how smart it is for him to risk his like Grand Slam chances, because he might, like, his knee problem might flare up at a Grand Slam when, I don't know, like, let's say Carlos and Jannik Sinner got like upset. Sorry, like, by upset I mean that they like lost early on. So then that'll be really interesting, because it might be Fritz's turn to shine, but because of his chronic knee problem that he literally made worse at these tour level events, he's not going to be able to sort of get that title that he desperately wants. So I think there's really a fine line between balancing getting enough points and also prioritizing to keep your body like more protected when you're playing at a Grand Slam. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, I think. But yeah, okay, now let's go to the last segment of today's show, which is the follow-through. So even though the Qatar/Doha Open just ended, the Dubai Open is starting again, which is another WTA 1000 event, which, as I said before, the tennis tour actually never stops. And however, we do have the top seeds, Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek, withdrawing. I mean, I don't think it's that surprising for Sabalenka, because Sabalenka really hasn't had the best results in the Middle East swing. Last year in Dubai, she lost to Clara Towson in a round of 32. But I do think it's pretty interesting for Iga, because Iga made it to the quarterfinals here last year, and I think she before really prided herself in playing in all of the WTA 1000 events. But I remembered that in her press conference in Australia, she mentioned how she's not going to do that anymore and take care more of her body. The defending champion is Andreeva, but Rybakina is still playing, and I really want to see more of Anisimova and Gauff, because Anisimova withdrew from Doha, and Gauff, just her forehand completely broke down. She lost, I think, in the second round of Doha. So I really want to see these two players play again, because I don't know, I feel like Gauff's season hasn't really been what she was expecting, just because, I mean, she was playing well in Australia, then all of a sudden her game against Svitolina just completely was just like horrible. It was actually terrible. So yeah, I really hope she finds her form soon. On the men's side, we have the Rio Open and the Qatar Open. I mean, both Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are playing in Qatar, so the possibility of another Sincaraz final, really looking forward to that. I mean, they haven't played at all this season. They played an exhibition, but I wouldn't really count that. So really interested for that. I mean, also Jannik Sinner's first round opponent in Qatar is Thomas Mahach, who had a really he was doing pretty well until he ran into Musetti. So interested in that matchup for sure. Definitely keep an eye out for that. For the Rio Open, we have Fonseca, who hasn't had the best start of the season. I know he has an injury, but I mean, the Brazilian fans adore him. So I really want to see how he does in Brazil. And yeah, that's basically all. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we will be talking about some of the interesting events in tennis from Dubai and Qatar and Rio. Subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. Please make sure to rate the show. It really helps out a lot. And comment or DM me ideas for the second serve. So if you guys aren't familiar, the second serve is my Substack, which takes on a written format, and it publishes monthly. And it sort of dives into just topics in tennis that I'm interested in, and it goes a lot deeper than the first serve podcast episodes. And comment down below your favorite tennis hot take, and I will also share mine in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Let the serves continue. Bye.